Today's video is sponsored by Topaz May. Thank you for being a member of the channel and thank you for supporting us. On to the video. Now, I released a short the other day showing this boat that showed up on a trailer. I thought I'd just show you guys because it's a little bit deceiving as to how large this thing actually is. So I'm still remaining a little bit tight-lipped on what it actually is. I will say it's a very large boat and it's got two levels to it. It's actually got like a living room space in it. It's so large. I mean, it's kind of stupid, but hand for scale, you know. This is a very, very, very big boat, and we're going to be doing a little bit of woodworking on it, believe it or not, and some cleaning, some detailing. But that'll be kind of a fun project. These are also super rare in and of themselves. Didn't make too many of these. If you know what this is, comment down below. I want to see what you guys guess as for what kind of boat this is. But yeah, let's jump into the video and we'll look forward to that later. So picking up from where we left off, we had the epoxy that was on there drying, and then of course we also had this area up here we were going to look at fixing. Probably just leave the sanding out of the video because it's just gonna be sanding and then painting way down the road. So we'll pretend that we're done there for now. We're going to move on to repairing this front portion up here. Also, just briefly want to mention, we had somebody reach out via email who's also restoring a 57 Resorter. So thanks for getting in touch with us. If you have any questions or anything like that yourself and you're watching this video, don't be shy. Drop a comment down below. Ask me a question, tell me a statement, whatever you want. I don't mind. We love interacting with you guys, and if we can help you with your projects, if you have any questions that are a little bit longer than one comment, don't hesitate to reach out to us via email. You can even call us too, and we're more than happy to help you guys. So now jumping back onto this side definitely had the impact. We have the broken section, we have the repaired section, and we have some pieces missing, and then this side is all one piece. There is no broken part, and it's almost pretty much complete up to here. So this side we probably don't have to worry about too much. And we're going to take a look at the frame that's up behind the splash rail here and see what kind of damage we have with that. Depending on how bad it is, we might have to go a little bit farther back, but hopefully we can make a nice repair to that. So to begin with, let's start by picking out the little plugs out of the side here of the splash rail and see if we can get this removed. All right, I'm just pointing out a good point here. So we're taking out the splash rail, which is good because I got to fix this. But all of the frame rails we've actually repaired down the length of this. When we removed these, I actually forgot about this. When we removed these, there was a fastener coming from back here into the into this section right here, holding the frame in position. So he makes a good point. We actually have to take off the splash rail on both sides and remove that all the ways down so that we can run a fastener into the back of these frames. So we're actually going to do that. We're going to take the splash rail off down the entire length of both sides of this thing and kind of get some more access to it. And he's just showing me right here. You can see the fastener that was sticking through originally, and if you follow that, that is exactly right in that spot, which carried over to where the splash rail would be. That fastener is hidden behind here. So I know there's a couple of you guys restoring these boats. If you replace the frame rails, you have to take the splash rail off too to run a fastener through there. So good eye, Artem. Thank you. So we got more work to do. There we go. So here we have a frame rail, and right in here we have another fastener going down to this. So the only way to replace these is of course removing the splash rail. So looking at the repair we're gonna have to do on this frame section, you can see where the plank is. So you can see this line right here. This is all part of the same plank, and then of course this piece is above the plank. But what we need to do to make a repair section, because we're not going to be replacing the entire length of this. Again, the point of this series is budget and accessibility and ease. So we're not going to be replacing the entire length of this like we would typically do. We're just going to be doing a repair. So this section from here up to roughly around this area is going to have to be replaced. Now to do that, the fastener on the top of the board here, top of the plank, is actually going into this piece. So I got to take out all of these fasteners along the top length here to be able to get access to this frame. Now as for where the repair is going to go, you can see on the top the very visible crack, but also from the back side there's actually another crack right here. So it seems like the most durable, if you follow this part, is going to be around this area. So there's a bit of a crack here too. So probably in between this spot somewhere is where we will do the joint to replace this section. So to make this repair, I'm going to get out my flush cut saw and I'm going to make a scarf joint as per Andrew's recommendation. So a scarf joint is similar to the one here on the splash rail, except the only difference is that we want it to be a lot longer on the frame because it is a structural support. So the longer the intersection, the more support we're going to have. So we're going to go for about a 6-inch section starting from here to about here, a nice straight line. The reason we're angling it this way, you always want to think about water intrusion. So technically, and hopefully, mostly hopefully, if the water comes along this way and it's angled like this, it'll kind of bead off. If it was angled like this and we had an exposed edge here, there is a chance that with sand, debris, water, all that, it would eventually start to wear away at this and we could have a leak begin to form in that area. So you always want to think about, I don't want to say aerodynamics, but essentially you want to think about the flow of water, how it's going to affect the repairs you're making, and what could happen over time if you're not careful with where you put the repairs. And there we go, we have a really nice cut and it's starting to move already. Might be a couple little splinters down towards the bottom here, but I just didn't want to go into this board very much. So I'm just going to see if I can gently rock it back and forth, see if there's any hidden fasteners, and see if we can't get this piece out of here in one chunk. So there we go, we got the frame piece out. You can see it's not perfectly straight in a couple of spots. It's a little bit curved, so this might be a little bit tricky to replicate, but we'll try our best to do it. The wood we have on hand for this repair is just some mahogany, so we're going to be using mahogany. I got my surfaces relatively cleaned up, lightly sanded. Fasteners are gone. This is pretty square. It's all pretty much ready to go, and we're going to get that new piece installed onto here. So let's go make that over in the wood shop area. So I found a piece that is comparable in size and height, and I'm going to be able to make it out of this. So we're going to make it out of this one thick piece of wood. I'm going to get it cut to size, and then we'll have to figure out ways we're going to make these cuts on here and get everything all lined up. There is a little bit of a curve to it, so we're going to make it pretty rough, but we're going to cut out a piece here and get started on that. Now, to make this effectively, it's important we think about what lines are necessary and what lines we can adjust later. So the inside, where the frame sits, I'm not super concerned about it. So we're going to make that flat. Then the surface that matters the most is this curved area along here. Now, as for the top and the bottom of the frame section, also doesn't really matter if they're flat or not. All that matters is this intersection where the plank and the bottom will meet. That has to be essentially the same. Now this is probably the easiest way to do it. Again, I told you I don't care if it's flat on the bottom. So the two high spots are going to keep this up as high as it possibly could be. The most material. I hold this right next to it, making sure everything is lined up relatively where I need it to be. And then I can then put this line roughly onto this piece of wood here. There we go, a little bandsaw, a little bit of planing, and I'd say that is pretty close to the curve that we need. Next thing I'm going to do is measure the distance from here to here and get that marked out, as well as the distance from here to here. In case you missed it in one of my last videos, the technique I'm using is holding the pencil like this, putting my finger up against here on the mark, holding it, and then drawing. You can draw perfect lines like that at the set measurement. There we go, after making some incredibly terrifying cuts. Looking back, I should have kept this flat when we did it, but we have the cuts in here. So one thing I'm noting is it's wider on this end and a little thinner down towards this end, which is perfect. I can sculpt that out, but I made sure I cut it to the wider section rather than having the thinner section because I wouldn't be able to make that cut. So I'm going to take the flush cut saw and make some relief cuts on this piece of wood. I know it looks a mess, but the cutting bit, you can actually see the head of the saw cut is deeper than the rest of this. So by the time I plane down to it, it should be relatively flat. So that's what we're gonna do next, is I'm just gonna start planing, and hopefully I didn't take away too much using this highly inaccurate cutting tool, but we're gonna find out. I make no mistake, I definitely went a little too far with the flush cut saw in a few spots, so that's my mistake, but the rest of it looks horrible, but I have the general shape laid out. Not super proud of this, but it's the right shape and it's the right curve, so do what I can. At least it's a nice solid piece of wood, and I'm going to keep on shaping it. If I can get any of the height, I'm going to take it off of this side to lower everything a little bit, but other than that, at least we got the cut on there. Let's compare it to the other piece and see what we got. So I'm just going to roughly mark out the transition to the front of the keel onto here. So there it is, roughly in place. I have to do a lot of adjustment to make sure everything fits, but for a first test fit, for some rough cuts, it's not terrible. I definitely have a lot of spots I got to work on. Keep in mind, I'm not really a woodworker. I'm learning this as I go, so I'm pretty proud of the fitment on this. Wish I hadn't done this with the flush cut, but thankfully I am removing a lot of that material to match the taper on here, so hopefully that helps some of it. Let's see if we can't make this fit a little bit nicer. Now, after a little bit of sanding and adjusting, I'm trying to get this thing to sit in there. Keeping in mind this thing has like 4 or 5 axes I'm working with, so I'm trying to get it in there without steam bending it, which isn't even necessarily something I could do if I wanted. So I'm really trying to just take my time and get everything set up. It looks like I might actually be cutting away some of these little marks I made, so thankfully that's the case. Now, this is one of those things where you have to kind of trust the process, which is a little funny because I don't trust the process, but I'm doing it anyways. Everything has to be adjusted slightly. Even this angle here, I had to plane so that when it fits in there like this, the edge isn't pushing up against here. But I always try to leave extra material because worst comes to worst, I can always remove some. And you can see that's actually helped me here. Look how nice this edge is now. The one that minutes ago I was upset about is nice and clean because I had to plane it anyways because I gave myself extra material. So trust your own process, because sometimes you start to lose faith in yourself. I'm definitely culpable for doing that, and things just kind of work out. Now, it's not perfect. I have more adjustments to make, but it's getting pretty close. So I'm pretty excited about that. You know, I gotta tell you, there is no better feeling than this right here. No pushing, no flexing, nothing. Just, man, I'm really proud of that. That's awesome. Okay, I still have a little bit more work to do. I have this section here really nice and close here, which very happy with that. It starts here, ends here. Looks really nice. I couldn't really account for this too much because this angle actually goes in, and on this side it appears that they have filled it with epoxy of some sort. I got nice edge down along here. It's a little bit high on this spot, and the one thing I'm fighting with is I got a bit of a gap here. But I'm going to try to get this fitting as close as I can without clamps, and then I can do clamps and epoxy and whatever else I need to do. But I'm going to see how close I can get this to fit. Keep in mind, there we go, a little bit of a gap there. pretty big gap there. I'm gonna see how close I can get this. But aside from that, I'm really proud of this piece. It's a good feeling. Okay, here's what we got. I got that as before, but I got this adjusted very close. I'm actually really happy with that. I was kind of panicking, as usual, that it wasn't gonna fit. I can definitely take a little bit more out of the bottom here. You can see the flex is coming from this area, so I might just take a tiny little bit more out. But without a clamp, I mean, that's not bad. I never said I was a master wood builder or anything, but for an amateur, that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. There it is with a clamp. That is pretty much flush. Very exciting. I actually need to take away some of this material, as well as the height of this material, and I also need to take away all of this, all the flush cut disaster that is here. Thankfully, is gonna get removed. So, a little pilot hole. Now these are just temporary. I just wanna see where everything sits. And if you look at the symmetry with the other side here, you can see that this one is remarkably thicker on the back side of it due to us making a straight line instead of curving it, like I had mentioned previously. And also you can see here, this is lined up really nice. This one, not so much, it's missing some pieces, but they're in relatively the same position. Now I want to just briefly take a look at the differences here. So on this one, you have to imagine that piece of wood going essentially straight from here to here. So here's my ruler, and you can use this to imagine how the piece of wood would be once it's in place. So you can see that is the desired outcome, that this reaches up like that. Now if you look at this side, when I set it here, I have quite a gap. So this can come in quite a ways so that this ruler can sit in there flush. Something like this, with this curved surface, there's no math here. I could try to make some math, I could try to get some measurements, but that's a fool's errand. A lot of these boats is sculpting, and it is a form of art. You're taking your time trying to make something, not necessarily always using a ruler. You're sculpting it. You're shaping it into the size that you need, into the thickness that you need, and there just simply isn't measurements for stuff like this. So trying to find perfectly mathematical straight lines on things, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And that's kind of something I had to wrap my head around when I first started, because I didn't quite understand that yet. So what I have now is this piece of wood here with that curve on it all the ways down. And that lines up with this one. And what I'm going to be doing next is I have some tape on here, and there's a bit of a rough edge the majority of the way down here, so I'm just going to clean this up and kind of flatten out this surface here a little bit nicer. And then I'm going to try to make sure that my line from the top to the top here is nice and smooth. So I put the splash rail back on just for a second. So I just want to see where everything is sitting. That looks pretty good. Now, what you'll notice on this side, you'll see how there's material above the splash rail. That starts to taper, and then it's essentially flush right at this rail, and then it's flat the rest of the way down. Now, if you look over on this side, it's protruding up, still pretty much up. Right here is where it's supposed to start going down, and I still have some material to get rid of along this area. So I might just take away a little bit more material so that it's flush on this side and that side to make it match, and then I can do a little repair under this area. I want to make a little butt block that'll just fill that up. Some people will fill this up with epoxy, but That's just too large of a cavity area for me to want to do that and feel good about it. There will be water coming in on this area, especially when you're going through heavy waves. It can come up quite a lot depending on how hard the waves are. So I want to make sure not only is there actually material there, but it's going to seal. So that's going to be the next thing I do here after I just shape this down a little bit more. So now I just need to make a piece of wood that fits into this little gap here. Some people, like I said earlier, would fill this up with epoxy, but this one time I'm actually going to make a little piece of wood that fits in there. So there we go. That's going to do it for the video today, guys. I got that piece installed, just temporary. I'm going to put sealant on here at some point in the future, but everything looks really good. I got that little patch piece put in place. Again, I had to do that because this section goes in, so I just didn't account for that when I built it. But next time I'll know, and I can definitely bond that. But I think we got really good fitment, and it's only held in with I'd say maybe 2-3 fasteners. So yeah, looks pretty good. So next time, next video, I'm going to be putting in the structure support right here and building all that up. And I want to get all of the structure made and completed before I final install, because I want to put that S1 sealant on everything and make sure that it's all nice and clean and sealed and ready to receive the fastener and the paint and all that. So, but yeah, that's going to do it for the video today, guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, you got your own project going on, you're looking for advice, you just want to say hi to our team or say hi to me, just drop us a comment. We'd be more than happy to reach out to you guys. And don't forget, we have the memberships available, and we're going to be doing some giveaways once we get a few members in there. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys again next time. Until then, see ya.